Okay, perfect. Is it on sound? Sounds off?
Yeah, absolutely. Always.
Always.
My background's in theater, man. Like absolutely. I am afraid I'm going to be that guy. Always.
That your
Movie
phone just
theater,
goes off?
Yeah. Audience anywhere. I'm afraid I'm going to be that guy because I'm going to forget. So it's always off.
And with that, welcome to the Patty G Show, everybody. I am your host, Patty G, here with Will Barrios of Tatro Toys.
So close. Tatro Toys.
Thank you. Which Will has a very cool backstory. We've only been talking for the last few minutes, and Carl and I are already so invested in his life history, and more importantly, the theory behind why the phone is always on silent. But we will get to that eventually throughout this course of the episode.
Yes.
So, Will, thank you so very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. So, for those that aren't aware, aka myself, for whatever reason, what is Tatro Toys and what do you do?
So Tatro Toys in full is Tatro hand-built magnetic toys.
Okay.
And it all started from a playset that I created for myself when I was a little kid, when I was about 10 years old. I was a creative kid, I was very imaginative, and I was also adopted and an only child, so I had to find things to do. I didn't have a sibling to bug or to play with or to annoy, I guess. So I got this cardboard box and I started building stuff out of the box. I put a floor in. I put magnets, beads on magnets. I put magnets underneath the floor of the playset. And I started running them around. And then I realized, these characters are coming to life. And then I could build scenes for them. And then I could paint stuff and craft and draw and color. And I did that until I was about maybe 19. And every year I would redo the little playset. And it would get better and better and better, obviously, as I matured.
Right. I would hope. Otherwise, we'd be going
in
the wrong direction.
Otherwise, I don't know how we got to where we are now.
That's right.
But yeah, it kept maturing with me. And I just loved the idea of this playset. So I moved to New York when I was 19, 2003. And then I was there for 10 years, moved to LA for 2. And then I still had this itch of this toy.
Right.
This thing that was in my mind. And at the time, I didn't know it was a toy. I just knew that it was a really random, weird thing I did as a child.
Yeah, with magnets of all things.
I had no idea. And so I just thought about the idea. I was kind of considering where I was in my life, and I spent 3 months looking at career books and passion books, and they all said the exact same thing. They all said, what did you do as a child that you would continue to do today if no one told you to stop?
That's a great question to ask.
Yeah. If anybody is job hunting right now, which probably a lot of people are, this is a great question to ask yourself to find really what your passion is. What did you do as a child that you would continue doing today if no one told you to stop?
I think I might steal that and add that as a question lineup in the Patty G Show.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
That'd be like one of the end, closer to the end questions. Maybe we'll start at the beginning. Maybe that'd be the first question we ask is what would you do today? I'm sorry, rephrase the
lines with what they're currently doing.
Yeah, right. What would you do as a kid today if nobody stopped you from doing that? If somebody's like, I don't know. It's like, well, what do you do today? I'm a lawyer. Okay, what did you do when you were a little kid? I don't know, collect butterflies. All right, next question.
But it's kind of true, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it, I'm also a certified play expert, which means that I can go into communities and talk about child development and the benefits of play through childhood. And it's, play is a space where you are innately you.
Right.
And especially as a kid, when you don't have a lot of, society's, structure around you or pressed upon you as much as it is as an adult, you are doing more of those things that really are who you are.
Yeah.
So, I think that's so important. And I guess that's what I recognize is that's what I did as a kid. And I thought it was the weirdest thing in the world. And I went to a hobbyist convention in Las Vegas. And I was like, oh, this could be like a hobbyist thing. They could build stuff. And I could see tons of people just tinkering with this. And then I went and no offense to anybody in the hobbyist community at all, but the age was much, much older than I was. And
what were the ages?
I would, so they're
a rough guesstimation.
So I would say there were probably maybe 40 people there. The average age was probably about 60 or 70. And I made best friends with the girl who's the same age as me. We both sat at the same table. So fortunately, that happened. But I realized that the energy that I had for the toy wasn't necessarily there. And that's when I realized it is a toy.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the toy industry, and that's when I was like, oh, these are my people. Right. So
And I think that's finding that community or that sort of people that you just instantly click. It's almost like a no-brainer. It's almost you hit yourself in the forehead and say, "Duh."
Yeah.
You know, why wasn't I doing this beforehand?
Yeah. Well, my background is in the arts.
Okay.
So, when I walked into one of my first conventions in the toy industry, I was like, these people are amazing. Like they're outgoing, they're passionate, they're a lot of them started in the garage. The famous story is to start in the garage. They have these massive toy companies that everybody knows of that they're like, some of them are still like 5-people teams and they're still just making this happen. It's like a family grown kind of business. And it's really it's fascinating.
But it's that sense of community, that sense of togetherness that, hey, let's build this product or let's build this item that people are going to bring into their homes and their children are going to grow up with it. The most impressionable individuals are going to use this device or this item for essentially their development almost. I mean, when you, what kind of toys, and I'm no expert by any stretch of the imagination, let me just lay that out there. When it comes to kids, I'm no expert at all, but I would imagine, or I would think that the toys that kids play with and use when they're little kind of shape and develop them as older adults.
Absolutely. I mean, everything you're doing in play, whether it's a child playing outside or whether it's a child playing with a block toy, there are so many things that go into it, from tactile development to social development if they're playing with other kids, that really can affect the way a child develops. And it's funny because I think what I love about the toy industry so much is that you learn when you play, but you're not given the message. Right, you're not saying as a toy industry like, this is what you're going to learn and this is how you're going to do it. We say, here's this really cool toy that's super fun, and you're going to create this world around it,
right?
Whatever you want it to be.
Right. That's with like any, I guess, kind of building toy in particular. You get a kit, and they say, here's how to make this specific kit. But like when I was growing up, my brothers and I, we were just into Legos. Yeah. And it was 3 of us, and so we were all always just building things with Legos. Yeah. And from an early age, we would buy the kits, and the instructions were gone in a matter of 30 minutes. Yep. Because we didn't want to build whatever the box. We just wanted that specific piece that came in the kit, and then we would let our imaginations run wild. Yep. And it's I love that phrase of, you never told, hey, this is the end game with the toy.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So when I first launched the Tatra playset last year, I sent it out without instructions. And I had some really upset parents that I didn't send it with instructions. And so I finally got some instructions and I finally sent them out. But it was really a test for me because I don't want to tell anyone how to play with it. I want them to choose how to play with it.
Right.
And that's kind of around our mission. Like, the mission of the company is expression through imagination. So we support expression however you do that, in whatever way. And I'll stop there.
No, keep going. Come on, man. We're it's a conversation back and forth. So
I forget what I was saying at that point.
Okay, so we'll rewind. So we've seen when you're a little kid, you kind of created this idea or this this product, but you didn't know necessarily it was going to be a toy at the time, I'm sure. So what?
I thought it was just a really weird kid. I probably still am.
I think we're all really weird kids. If you weren't a weird kid, were you even a kid?
Right.
So,
probably very true. you aren't going to be successful unless you're a weird kid, probably.
That's it. Right? If you were the normal kid that is like, everybody's like, oh yeah, that's Will over there. We get along great. He's just some normal kid, and doesn't do anything weird. Right. Yeah. No, you were like, oh my gosh, that dude's got magnets and cardboard boxes.
I still do that to myself. I play with magnets.
Do you still have
a grown adult?
Do you still have the original products that you made?
I don't have the original. I have the original prototype.
Okay.
For the Tatra playset. I have 2 or 3 of them that are in my office space, just to keep them there for posterity, just to look at them.
That's it. To look back.
But it's a reminder of kind of where I came from.
Okay.
When I had the idea for it, I kind of went back to the idea. I went to an arts and crafts store and spent $200 on foam and glue and the T-pins, where you can just like pin them into foam. It keeps the glue together.
Yes. Okay.
For model makers, they use that. And I put that thing together, and then I showed it to a couple of friends and went, "What do you think? Am I crazy? Am I not? Is it let me know. If it was crazy, I don't need to do it."
How was the feedback? Did you get a couple of, it was crazy?
I think everybody to some extent was like, "You're crazy," but I think I could see a spark in everyone's eye.
Mhm.
Everyone that saw it, there was some kind of spark, some kind of joy, something, especially for seeing these adults playing with it, that brought back some kind of joy,
Right.
nostalgia. And I was like, okay, if that's there's something special going on. And then when I started playing with, with parents and then with their kids at events, I would start to see the kids, the eyes would lighten up, and they'd have so much joy from it, and I'd see the parent responding to that joy that their child had, and I realized like there's something special here
Mhm.
in what we're doing, and I think part of it is really that it's about expression, it's about no instructions, it's about just playing and
Yeah.
just going.
And that's a
Yeah.
thing I don't have any kids of my own yet, but I've got a bunch of nieces and nephews. And seeing them at playtime, they rarely ask what to do. They rarely ask, how does this toy work? What am I supposed to do with it? I mean, you lay down just like a box of blocks.
Yeah.
And for some people who may not have like that imagination side of them, they're going to sit there and be like, what am I supposed to do with these blocks? Like, imagine if you brought a box of blocks into like a college classroom
Right.
and you sat them on the desk and just opened them up and then said to the college students, all right, go ahead.
Yeah,
They'd be like,
what do I do? Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah, I mean, it's the way you're conditioned, right?
Yeah, as we get older, I feel we get more ingrained in task-driven mindsets. I mean, I'm an accountant as my day job. I've got a pretty...
You're pretty... Yeah.
You're right. I mean, I'm working in Excel, looking at numbers. I'm
Yep.
task-driven. Okay, I have to get this task done at this certain amount of time. This is how I have to do this task. But when you're playing and you're using toys, it's... Well, no, you don't.
Yeah, and that's funny. I think, I think some of the parents... I mean, the playset probably wasn't the easiest to put together, guys. I'm sorry, at first. But, I think the parents coming into this a lot of times... I think there's two sides to it. One is they look at it as an adult and they're conditioned to think instructions. How do we put it together, right? Rather than the child is just going to throw it together. But I think the other part of that too is like, my audience is basically 35 to 44-year-old moms. Like that's that's my market, and I think sometimes they just need instructions because they don't want to think about anything else. They don't want anything else on their plate to think about right then. They just want to be able to put it together and make sure the child's happy. And that's it. But so I have instructions with it now, but I think my point with all of that is it's so important just to allow the children to just play and just experience any kind of world that they want to create. Yeah. It's so important.
They will create it how they want it.
Yeah.
And if they won't, they'll throw them. If it doesn't work how they want it, they'll throw the toys.
Absolutely, yeah. And like with the playset, we started out with I think 9 different themes.
Okay.
So and we did it through basically asking kids what they loved, what were their favorite themes, and we got unicorn and we got dinosaur and cars and trucks. And so in creating all those different themes, the entire system for the Tatra playset is built on the idea that you can buy a playset in a theme like unicorn, and you can add on magnets for cars and trucks. You can add on a backdrop for another theme for mermaid. So the idea is that you can build and create this world as like a la carte as you want.
Mm.
And that's kind of that joy of not having instructions, but being able to just play whatever way you want to play.
Yeah, and especially as adults, we have too many instructions, I feel sometimes. I mean, I know now, like if I'll buy a set from a store, like to put together some tools, I want to look at the instructions.
Yep.
Like I'm going to figure this out.
Yep.
Just because I enjoy figuring stuff out. When I can read the instructions, it'd be so much easier.
Yep.
But it kind of goes back to the kid mentality of, no, let me build it for what I think it should be.
Well, think about what we've lost today with like having GPS.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't really know how to get around.
I have no idea how to get anywhere.
Like we have no idea. I mean, you're like 9 minutes from me, and I haven't I had to follow Google the whole way here. Like, hey, I couldn't remember exactly how to get over this place. But that's kind of, I think it's kind of like the way that we learn now. If we expect the instruction, we expect it to be given to us, rather than taking the time to really think something through strategically, to ask questions ourselves about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how what the end result might be.
Yeah, and what can the end result be?
Yeah,
not what does it have to be. What can it be? What are the possibilities that we can morph this into?
And that's an important question to ask.
Yeah,
I think it's an incredibly important question to ask. When I was in New York, I worked in theater there, and I did props. And if anybody knows props at all in theater, if anybody does at all, you know what it's like. It's a very, very tough job. It's artist driven, but it's also curiosity driven, research driven. But you basically, somebody's gonna say, hey, we need a 17th century book that might be on a French desk, in an office,
Right.
and they're like, we need that in 2 hours, and you go, okay. And one thing that really taught, like going back to like playing and put all the pieces together, is that you may have an end goal, and you need to get there, but you may go that route in a bunch of different ways.
Right.
It may not be the way that maybe that person thought it was going to be, but you can find the end result. It's just it may go a very different route than the way that you thought.
Yeah.
Like I may think, oh, I'm going to run down to the store and go buy something, and I can like sand it, make it look old or something. Or I can get on Etsy and look at something. I can get on, some other platform and look at, books that I can get shipped to me in a day.
Right.
So anyways, I think the idea is that curiosity is important, and
Right.
that asking that question is important. I think that's kind of been lost a little bit.
Yeah, well, it can be applied for those good managers in business if
Mhm.
they're saying, "Hey, I need you to get task A, B, and C done,"
Mhm.
and that's it.
Yep.
You say, "Look, I need these 3 tasks
Yep.
done, and this is when it needs to be done by," and then they just wash their hands of it, and you're like, I mean, you kind of had to sit there and be like, "Okay, what?" Like,
It's autonomy.
all right, what
Yeah.
am I supposed to do here? And
Mhm.
exactly, it's autonomy,
Mhm.
and creating that within the employees as managers
Oh yeah.
is crucial, especially in even in a startup setting
Yeah.
where you might have all the ideas in your head.
Right.
I know a lot of entrepreneurs like, I want this to be done exactly like this.
Yeah.
If it's not done like this, it's wrong. And it's
Right.
like, well, no,
Yeah.
it's just somebody else had a different vision than you.
Yeah.
But it still works. It's still amazing. The product or the end result was still what you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
You wanted them to go right down the fork, and they went left down the fork.
Yeah.
And it just, for some people, it's tough to comprehend and to accept that willingness to give up that kind of roadmap that we want to give to
Mhm.
people.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
yet it's so important.
Oh, it's so important. I mean, it's funny. So my business is kind of a family business now. It's me and my parents who were retired, and I brought them out of retirement and said, "Hey, do you want to help with this?" And they're like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so my dad's running production, my mom's doing finance and helping out with production, and I have some friends that help out from time to time. But I found even with them as an example of, I guess, employees now, it's we've had the conversation of autonomy in the work, and I said, like, look, I'm just going to give you the tasks, I'm going to give you the date. Doesn't matter how you get there. Like, let's get there. Let's get to that date. If you have questions, let me know, and we'll go from there. But and I've even had times where one of them will ask, like, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I'll say, what do you think about that? Like, how do you feel about that? I guarantee your instinct is probably as good, if not better, than mine,
Right.
because you already know the work you're doing. And it's amazing that I've seen that level of autonomy, even though I'm talking about my parents, to see that level of autonomy.
Letting our parents do what they want to do, it's really great.
But as a family that's working together on a business now, it's been great to be able to see how that has made everything so much smoother. Because one thing that I look at in my business, I want the least amount of barriers to the customer. I want the least amount of barriers to get the product out. Like, whatever we can do to remove barriers, that's what we need to do. And autonomy is, I think, number one way to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's letting them know that, hey, we need to get here, but I may not have the best idea, so I'm open to it.
Yep.
And it's those entrepreneurs that are able to do that. Even, I mean, you're only been in business, what, a year? Coming up on a year?
A year-ish.
Yeah.
It's a longer story. We can hash that out.
Somewhere in there, in those
We
fine
officially
lines.
launched the product May 22nd, 2019.
Okay,
We launched
so
the
yeah.
Tacho playset. Yeah.
So we're a year and 9
Year.
days.
Yeah.
So being at that level, even this, I mean, you're very early in the game.
Yep.
Well, I'm still early in the game. I'm earlier than you are. I mean, you're older than me. But anyways, having that ability that early on in the game to say, hey, yes, this is essentially my company and my baby, but I'm so open to your input
Mhm.
that you can just do whatever you want with the task so long
Yeah.
as you get the task done.
Mhm.
And that, I think, is super important.
Absolutely.
So you said you've got a theater and theater and art major background.
Mhm.
What let's go down that hole.
Sure.
That rabbit hole. Because I thought it was just before this getting started. You said it was just LA, but now you said New York in there.
No,
So
we've got
all
over. Do you want the short story?
No.
Oh, I mean, like the short. We can hash
I
it out
don't want
afterwards.
the short
Okay.
story, man. Let's Let's come on. Let's
To-
tease it. Let's
okay,
tease it.
So
We're teasing from you
okay.
ended up in Louisiana.
Oh, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Wait, do you want the story? Like,
Yes,
where
go.
I've lived? Okay.
Let's do it.
So I was born in Houston.
Okay.
My parents are originally from New Orleans.
Okay.
I went to college at LSU. They were in the Tiger Band together, which is how they met.
That's cool.
Yeah. And my parents moved to Wharton, Texas. And I got a job there teaching music.
Mhm.
And they adopted me out of Houston. And I was 3 months old at the time. And I think about a couple years after that, we moved back to Baton Rouge.
Okay.
Then we moved to Colorado for 7 years. We moved to Rhode Island for 1.
All
Bear
right.
with me. Then we moved.
Give me a finger up.
We moved back to Louisiana
All right.
for. Well, we all of us moved. All the 3 of us moved back to Baton Rouge, in 1999, I think. And
Okay.
then I moved to New York in 2003.
Okay. So what is your age range at 03 to move back? I mean, because you're essentially moved away from your parents, right?
Like when I moved to New York, how old
Yeah.
was I? Or I was 19.
19.
I
Okay.
was 19. I had 3. This is the musical theater ones out there. I had $3, 2 bags, 1 me. But I literally had.
That's good. $3.
Do you know that
2 bag.
reference?
No, I don't.
Do
I'm
me
sorry,
a favor.
I do not.
Google. Just Google that.
Okay, $3,
After this.
2 bags.
Google that
1 me.
and Sutton Foster, and then text me after this.
Gotcha.
So where were we?
$3, 2 bags, 1 me.
Yes. I literally had $3. I went with my parents for a week to meet with a talent manager up there,
Okay.
and because I was moving there for acting, and we did the whole thing for a week and saw New York and everything. My parents literally left me on 54th and 6th to go to the airport, and I had no job, I had no apartment, I had maybe $500 with me. I literally had 3 bags.
So they brought you up to New
They
York.
brought me up to New York.
They,
yeah.
did they sit in the meeting at least, like for the talent manager, or they just
I
say,
don't
"Hey,
even know
go"?
I don't even know if they did. I can't remember now.
I
I'm sure
love
they
it.
did. I'm sure they did. Yeah, I'm sure she would have. I mean, I was 19, so I was old enough to meet her on my own.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
might have
yeah.
met her on my own, actually. Yeah.
Dude. All right, so we meet the talent manager. All right, parents are just like, "All right, bye."
Yeah.
Like, see ya. Here's like,
Yeah.
we're not even gonna make sure you're moved in, checked in. No, nothing. Just all right. You're on the
Yeah. So
worst case. You're on the street tonight in New York. So see ya.
So I had a place to stay. I did have
Okay.
a place to stay
That's
with
good.
a
All right.
friend for a week.
Okay. Okay. So you're
For a week.
You're a week.
Right. So I was okay. I was okay.
You're good.
But
Golden.
But I then had to find an apartment. I then had to find a job. And I actually, the second night I was there, I think probably why they were really comfortable with it was the second night I was there, I went to a class with a friend of mine, and a friend of hers had an apartment available.
Okay.
And it was like $75 a month, maid's quarters, and like 4-bedroom on the Upper West Side.
So it was one of the bedrooms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to hear that story?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Okay.
That's right.
So wait.
Yeah.
Because I've never been to New York. A little
Okay.
backstory about me.
Yeah.
I don't travel much.
That's okay.
Louisiana, I'm pretty much there. That's me. I'm all over Louisiana, but I've never made it up to New York side. So the Upper West Side to me is just
Like, I have
not
no idea
like
what that is.
television, TV shows, whatever. So yes, 4 bedrooms. How many bathrooms?
There was one bathroom. One bathroom.
All right.
Yeah.
But it was only $70, 75 cents. a month.
$775 a month.
700.
And $75 a month.
Ah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Got
For
it.
the maid's quarters.
For the maid's quarters.
Yes. Which is a steal for the Upper West Side. It was like
Really?
Yeah, oh god, yeah. Oh
So
my god, even now.
That's a little newsflash of how uncultured I am.
I mean, you can get I don't know, studios probably somebody can correct me on this, but like studios can start at like 1.5 now easily.
Okay.
Easily.
All right. Well, I guess
Yeah,
real estate.
it's
Look,
insane.
three keys to real estate: location,
My-
location, location.
I had an apartment in New York that was in Midtown. It was $24
Okay.
a month, and it is now like I think $3,500. Yeah, and
So
that
not
was,
a
like,
bad
5 years
investment
before
from
that,
then till now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyways,
Maid quarters, 4 bedrooms, 1 bath.
yes, and so they showed me this as the maid's quarters off the kitchen,
Mhm.
and
Oh, you had a
uh,
kitchen. Okay.
I had a kitchen.
That's
Yeah,
plus.
yeah, of course. And it was a nice kitchen for New York. And so I looked at the place. And I was like, oh, this is cool. It's a small room. It's got a big window.
Right.
It's big enough for maybe a couch. I don't know. And I was able to actually get a couch in there. It wouldn't unfold, but a couch.
Like a futon?
No, like a couch.
Oh, okay. So
I just slept on a couch.
So you slept on a couch.
Yeah,
You slept on a couch in your own place.
at my own place.
That's a different level.
Yeah. And then they had a chest of drawers in there, and then at the time I had TV VCR combo because that was the thing.
Right.
And
That was high class.
Yeah, it was super high class. And the blackout of 2003 happened. I think
Mhm.
I'd been there maybe a month, maybe not even that long. Yeah, maybe about a month or so. And the power went out, and I had a little radio in the shower. I was taking a shower at the time, and I turned the knob on the radio, and then the power went out, and I went, oh God, what happened? And then I was like, okay, did I blow a circuit or something? And then I was like, what are you thinking? Like, you're an idiot. Like, that's a battery operated radio in your shower. Of course you don't have it plugged in anywhere. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's something with the apartment. So I went out to the apartment, pitch black, and it was the middle of the day, but still no lights on. And so I was like, okay, super weird. I'm gonna go walk outside. Walked outside to the front step. The whole block was out. And then, of course, we find out, listening to the radio, that the entire island is out, basically. And anyway, so I had somebody that lived above us, a couple floors above us, had the exact same layout, and she said, "You should come over. I have gas stoves. We can I can cook you dinner." I was like, "That's awesome." And we were talking about me living there, my roommates and everything. She's like, "Oh, that's so cool." She's like, "Well, where do you live?" And she walked me to the back, and she's going to the kitchen making stuff, and she's talking to me about my room. And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like right in this space." And she opens some doors. She's like, "Oh, that's really great. Wait, in this space?" And she goes to pull food out of her pantry, and I realized that I was paying $7.75 a month to live on the Upper West Side in a pantry.
No.
Yeah. Very nice pantry, by the way. Like, it was easy to sell it as a maid's quarters. Like, it was really nice.
So maid's quarters was made up.
I think it was made up. I don't think it was a real thing. I really don't. It could be like somebody's like the mother-in-law suite. I don't know, but
the mother-in-law suite. Oh gosh. Well, I mean,
it's
mother-in-law
I don't
suite.
know. It was hysterical. I was paying $7.75 a month, my first apartment in New York, to live in a pantry. Yeah.
Solid. That's, yeah. All right. So we start there. I'm hoping we have some upward trajectory from here on out. If not, then it's about to get very interesting. It's going to get interesting either way. Okay, so 775 Upper West Side.
Yes.
How was you're here.
Yes.
So how was the acting career?
Obviously, you didn't do it. Obviously, you didn't make it. You're here sitting in front of me.
But not necessarily.
Not necessarily. No. So, no, it was good. I didn't do anything big. I did a couple commercials, like low end commercials, and some like random theater stuff. But that was about it.
So what was the theater scene like in New York at the time?
Like,
was it really big, or was it kind of just more secluded?
Like, in what way? Because it already is a big industry.
The one you were involved with, how was it in the grand scheme of things?
So, theater in general, I would say, so how can I relate this? I think theater, when I was there, was very much about the actors, the creatives who were there in the theater district, who were, the fans of the theater who were there, or who came into New York to see it, or the nerds, and I say nerds, I was this nerd, in drama class or acting class,
mm-hmm.
who knew all the theaters, knew all the actors, knew all the plays and everything. And I think the difference between then and now is that now, because of Glee and because of all these shows, the live musicals that are being done, it's just taken on a life of its own, and now it has this massive fan base across the world. Right. And that's been the biggest difference. That's gone from being something so, I think, I don't want to say small at all, but something that's a little bit more, I guess, industry related, rather than it being more of like this massive fandom.
Yeah. So then it was a little more, I guess, challenging to go there as a no name to really find something. Whereas now
absolutely.
you can just hop on board.
You can go there as a name and fail. Yeah. I mean, Google Suzanne Summers. I can't remember the name of the show, but
mm-hmm.
Google that and I'll listen to the name of the show.
Okay.
Yeah. No, look, shows go up and come down in a day. I mean, you can put up a marquee and the show can never go on. I mean, look at where we are right now in COVID. I mean, you have shows that were going up or in previews, or like I think Company was in previews, and everything's on hold. Yeah.
That's interesting. So why the end in New York?
Yeah, so I went to school for theater design,
Okay.
and then I ended up working for a scenic artist or a scenic designer, and he was working for a theater for a while, a regional theater that needed somebody to do props,
Okay.
and they were like, well, "We're going to pay you some good money to do this," and I looked at like the credits I had in school and like what I was paying per credit, and I looked at what they're going to pay me. I was like, I should go take this job, like. I should really just go do this,
Yeah.
and so I ended up taking the job, and I ended up at that regional theater for about a year and a half, and then I ended up working with a Broadway props coordinator. I was doing my own shows off Broadway, and then I was working with a Broadway props coordinator, and I was just working on her shows that she had. So, yeah.
So why'd you leave?
Oh, why did I leave? That's a question. Should probably answer that, right?
We get you loved it over there. You had a great job set up. So it's like to me, like, all right, why leave?
So it's the reason I say all that.
Yes.
Is because I was working on a show and I was going to a preview of one of the shows on Broadway, walking down Broadway to Times Square. And one thing New Yorkers rarely do is they rarely look up. They're always looking ahead or looking down or like you're trying to see where you're going.
That's interesting.
But you rarely look up at the buildings.
Okay.
You rarely stop and take it in.
Why?
Because you're always on the go. Yeah, you're going from point A to point B.
That makes sense.
And I happened to look up at Times Square, and it had been 10 years since I moved to New York, and all I ever wanted to do was work on Broadway. And I got that chance.
Yeah.
And I realized I didn't do it in the way I thought I would, right?
Right.
But,
it goes back to the beginning.
Yeah, right. But, see, I'm bringing this full circle, right?
Love it.
So
Love it.
I said, I've done everything I wanted to do. I got a chance to do it, and I had an amazing experience doing it. I learned a lot. And probably more than if I was acting, actually. I probably learned more on the production side, dealing with some of these creatives. And I finally said, you know what? I think I'm done with New York. And that was it. I was walking down the street, and I just went, I think I'm done.
And that, to me, is such a powerful conversation to have with people, is what do you do once you've reached your goal? What do you do once you've achieved your dream?
Yeah.
I mean, because you spend this whole time kind of in the fight.
Yeah.
You know, and you're in the rink, you're trying to do everything you can, you're dodging punches, you're throwing punches. What do you do when the fight's over and you've won?
Yeah.
You know, because essentially, like you said, you had done everything you wanted to do. It may not have been in the way you wanted to. Yeah. You know, you may have started the boxing round and now you ended up in UFC, but you still got the battle won.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and so how do you know, A, when you've won the fight, and B, when it's okay to move forward?
I mean, I think I think instinctually you just know when it's the right time. I think everybody does. You may know it instinctually like 3 months before you realize it consciously. You know,
right?
like,
right.
Unconsciously versus consciously. But you know, I think that everybody to some extent will come to terms with any change they're going to have in their life at some point. And I think, you know, especially during COVID and during, you know, a lot of people either being laid off, furloughed, or quitting their jobs. I think there's going to be a lot of people who go, well, what is my passion? What do I really want to do? Like, what can I do on the side that I can pick up, you know, maybe in a couple of years? And so it's,
You got a lot of time to think.
They've got a lot of time to think, a lot of time to ask those questions. Yeah.
Yeah. And ask, especially, you know, this is probably, I don't know how many episodes in a row that we've kind of circled back to a conversation of you have to know yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't know yourself, you can't help others.
Yeah.
And you also can't help yourself. I mean, if you don't know what you really want, if you haven't taken that time to sit and reflect and say, hey, okay, what do I really want to do with my life? You know, and COVID has given, I mean, you always got to see the brightness. At least I try to see the goodness out of certain situations. And it's given us time to reflect inwards and say, okay, am I really going down the path that I want to go down? And if I'm not, what is stopping me from changing? If you're laid off, what is stopping you from, you know, taking the time to really think about what other job can I go find? Even if it's, you know, moving from the East Coast to the West Coast, which is what you did once you finished
East to West
and you found your accomplishment, and now you went back to the West Coast. So you looked up in Times Square, which obviously if you're a New Yorker, don't look up or you'll move. But you did. And you said, hey, I'm done. I've got what I want to do out of here. And then you moved over to LA, right?
Yes. I moved back home for a little bit.
Okay, so we moved. So we had a pit stop.
Made a pit stop, saved some money, and then I moved out to LA.
Okay. So what made you want? So you came home.
Yep.
And then what gave you kind of the spark to go back to LA?
So I knew if I ever went out to LA,
Mhm.
or I knew if I ever moved anywhere from New York, it would be LA. I just always knew that's the direction I would head.
Why?
Just because it's another bigger city. There's
Okay.
there's creatives out there, there's film industry, and I thought maybe I could try and get into something there. And so yeah, so I saved up, I moved out there, and I honestly kind of took a break for about 2 years. I tried to get into some production stuff, and I actually had an offer for something really good, but I had to turn it down because they're like, you have to give up this job, you have to be on the job like tomorrow, and I'm like, no. I'm sorry, like this is a great offer, but no, like there's no guarantee that you're going to rehire me in 6 months, and I know I'm going to have them in 6 months. So
Yeah.
I was just like, this isn't
Yeah, well, it's,
rational.
especially for film crew people. If you're being hired on
I
a
feel bad. I should
project,
have taken it.
you don't.
I'd still be in LA.
Do you regret that decision?
I do not, but I'm curious what it would have turned out like. I'm curious where my life would have gone after that. Yeah. So, anyways,
Okay.
but yeah, so I was in LA, and I tried to get into production. I ended up working retail, and I just started working retail. I did Uber for about a year, so I was driving around
good-
LA,
good
which
place
is like
to
the
be in
worst
Uber.
place.
Worst place?
Well, I mean, the traffic. I mean, the only time you can really work and not stress is like 3 a.m. to like 5 a.m.
So you just worked the night shift, 2
Basically,
hours.
seriously, I got to a point where it was so bad during the day because you're paid by the mile and the what's it, mile and time,
Okay.
and at least it was at that time. And in LA, I mean, you can easily go 3 miles and have that take you 45 minutes, easily,
Jeez.
like during rush hour, or you can go 3 miles in 3 minutes when it's 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
So I figured out it's better to go out at night, and that's what I did. And I literally would go out like 11 o'clock until I think I would do 6 o'clock like airport runs, because then I would actually park. I'm telling you like this whole crazy thing.
I'm loving it.
I would park myself out in Pasadena
Okay.
because I knew that Pasadena was close enough to me, but far enough away from the airport that I can get the longest rides. So I'd go park myself in Pasadena. I'd start picking up airport rides, and I would drive all the way across the entire city over to LAX, and I'd drop them off. I'd come back. I would do like 3 rounds of that in Pasadena, come on back, and yeah. And then by like 8 o'clock, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I got to get off the road.
At 8 in the morning.
8 in the morning, yeah.
Okay, see,
Yeah.
oh gosh. But
Yeah.
I mean, you figured you were figured out what was the best route.
Oh yeah. Oh, I had a chart. I printed out a chart so I
No.
knew what events were going on, what time they were going on, where I needed to go. So if I dropped off a ride somewhere and I knew that like 10 o'clock this like event was gonna in downtown, then I was gonna make sure I was down there at 10:15 or 10:20, and then
So you were like full time
I
Uber
was
driver.
organized on this.
That
Yeah,
was-
absolutely.
Jesus.
It's like, I'm not wasting time. I want to make sure I make my money.
Did you have like ice chests in the back with waters for the riders?
I did not. The first time I did it, I think the first couple weeks I had bottled water, and then
Okay.
I had some chips and stuff, and I was like, nobody cares about this. Like nobody really,
They're
like-
gonna get here and put on the phones the entire time anyway.
nobody really cares. So I just stopped doing it. I did have my multi phone charger,
Gotcha.
all the different types of chargers.
Okay, so you had all right. So that was smart. It's saying, hey, I know you're gonna come in here. You're gonna play on your phone. So just charge your phone while you're doing
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
So, but Uber, I'm assuming, was not the reason you moved to
No,
LA.
I don't know. Oh, we got on Uber. So Uber was not the reason I moved to LA, and that was part of the reason I realized maybe I don't need to be in LA anymore. And that's when I started kind of looking at the passion books, career books, like what do I want to do again? And that's when
Right.
this whole idea came up about the toy.
I love that. So, what did you?
Where do you want to go with that?
Well, I was gonna say, what?
Which
So,
direction do you
what
wanna
did you
go
get
with
done in LA outside of driving for Uber?
What, say that again.
What did you get? What did you do outside of Uber in LA?
I worked retail. Oh, what did I get? I
Retail.
mean, what do I do with my life?
Did you ever? No, did you ever get back into the movies? Into the the creative scene?
So I interviewed for a couple jobs there, and I had
Okay.
one offer, but
Gotcha.
I had to turn that down because of the scheduling.
Okay.
And that was a point too where I was like, oh well, if I was more committed to this, maybe I would have taken that.
So you knew
And I
at
realized
that
maybe I
point
wasn't. Yeah.
you were kind of drifting outside
Yeah.
of that world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of the reason I left New York from working in that theater world versus TV and film was, I knew how many hours I was working a week, and sometimes
Yeah.
it was 70 hours a week.
Right.
I saw how long my boss worked and how much work she put into it, and I went, do I want to be 50? Do I want to be 60 and still be working 70, 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Am I passionate enough about this to do that? Because I look at all the things that she goes through and people in that field go through, and it's not the nicest stuff. Like, you have a lot of grunt work that you have to do.
Oh my gosh,
it's a lot.
yes.
So I just realized that probably isn't going to be the direction I go.
Yeah, and that's sometimes it takes that clarity or that seeing other people in the job already.
Yeah.
And it's okay. That's my future.
Yeah. You have an epiphany in a theater, like, I don't know. No. I see her on stage. No. Actually, one of the best moments I had was I was on stage for a show, and it was during tech, and we had the director up there, the writer, we had the star in the show, and we had my boss's props coordinator, lighting director, like everybody up there, and we were trying to figure out this issue about like a plant on the center of the table and how we were going to like create this plant to like fit a few things that they needed. And I had a moment where I looked around at everybody on stage and I went, you guys have like 40 Tonys between you guys. How have you never come across this issue before? How is this the first time any of you have come across this issue?
Where to put a plant?
Where to put a plant? Like, I didn't get it. So that was also a thing that the magic of it all. The magic, I think even I was watching Becoming the other day with Michelle Obama, and she was saying like, I've been at the table with the some of the most powerful people in the world, and like nobody really knows what they're doing. Nobody really knows how they're going to accomplish something. And I think that was a moment for me, being up there going, they have no idea. Like, one of them was a costume designer who's like in her 80s, and like she's been doing this for years, and she's brilliant. But how has nobody come across this?
Like circling back to instructions. We don't have instructions. Do we really know what we're doing?
Well, what's funny is they were then like, okay, and then we need this in 2 hours, and we're like, it's 5 o'clock. Like the floral district closes at 5 o'clock.
Jeez,
yeah, it was crazy.
Okay,
so we had fun.
So you wanted to get out of that scene. You did, and you moved to LA, which most people would think you'd move to go get back in the scene.
Right,
but that wasn't the route for you, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, I tested it, but
yeah, you tested, and that's good, because when people that don't test it, they don't ever know what it's going to be.
Yeah,
and then you always live with that regret of, man, what would have happened?
Yep. And look, that's exactly why I moved to New York when I was 19, and that's exactly why I moved to LA. I said, if I even go for a year, 2 years maybe, I went. I'd rather go and know that I did it than not do it at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you ended up back in Little Old Baton Rouge.
Yeah, and then I was like, well, I've done all this stuff. Why not come back to Baton Rouge and move in with my parents? And imagine me having a conversation with them in my 30s saying, hey, remember that toy I played with when I was a kid? What if I built a business around it? Like, what if I came home, took over your entire house, and turned it into a production studio?
What did they say to that?
They were like, okay.
Wow.
I think it took a little bit of convincing.
Okay.
It took a little bit of convincing, but my mom always saw this thing in my life, and I think she knew it would somehow.
I mean, I think mothers have that unique. They have that unique gift that whenever they can look at their kid as a little child, and they see them, especially when they latch on to something so creative like that. I mean, you're using cardboard and magnets. I was dumber. I couldn't do that. I mean, my creative bones are not very proficient. Let's just say that.
It's okay. I'm not good with math. You apparently are. So maybe you're good with formulas. You're good with formulas. You're good with Googling formulas.
I'm good showing I'm good at formulas.
That's true. That's very true.
Let's put it that way. My boss is watching. What's going on? So you just basically just uprooted your parents' life essentially and said, "Hey, I know you're enjoying you two and your little
you guys are
retired, but guess who's coming home?"
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna give it a month." It was in December of 2016. I had to spend those 3 months before that, kind of asking myself what I want to do.
Right.
And I came home for Christmas, and Christmas Eve, I kind of had this itch for that idea, for this toy, and I wrote a business plan for it, which is nothing like what it ended up being at all.
If you did your business model off the first business plan you
it's probably
wrote,
the wrong thing. Yeah,
you're genius.
Or you're brilliant.
I want to come on the show. If you did a business plan the first time and that's what your business is still doing, come on the show. Hit me up.
You're doing it wrong. No. No, I'm sure there's somebody out there that's still doing it. It's probably great. They're probably brilliant. So yeah, I wrote the business plan and I said, okay, I told my parents I'm going to go back to LA. If I'm still thinking about this in a month, then I'll come out there and then I'll come back home and then I'll, start exploring this.
Right.
I had no idea what it would be. I thought I was crazy. I'm sure they probably thought I was a little crazy. I'm sure people still think I'm crazy, which I'm okay with. Because I fully admit that, like, you cannot do great things without being crazy.
Right. Every
you
entrepreneur
really
is crazy.
You can't. Yeah. Like, my day is now, like, in my little, like, my new little lab that I've created, little research lab, creating new things and creating new products. I like, made space for myself to go just play and create and do stuff. So.
Yeah, you're going so far against the grain, but it's working so well.
Absolutely.
I mean, how many, what are you, mid-30s?
Sure.
What are you?
Actually, I'm mid-30s right now. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We don't need an exact number. So you're for a mid-30-year-old in today's society to even think about going back and living with their parents is just preposterous.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think a lot of people are doing it right now. I think with student loan debt and all that, yeah.
But like,
there's a lot of pride involved.
There's a lot of pride involved in, being independent, being on your own, being in your own space, and then having the ability to, and the humility really, to say, hey, mom, dad, like, can I move back in with you? Because I want to chase this dream. That for people who want to start a business,
this toy,
this thing, hey, mom and dad, can I come back and play? Like,
it wasn't even anything really tangible. Like, I wasn't basing it off of anything, Like, it's something they knew about. It wasn't like, I'm going to create a new delivery app. Like, oh, delivery apps, oh, those are fun. Yeah, come on back. I'm sure they'll do great. Yeah. No.
It's like, no, this is a toy that only you know. That only you've played
I have no idea if anybody wants it. Yeah.
But apparently they do.
They do, absolutely.
But it's still having that humility to go back to your parents and live with them while building the business, that I feel like a lot of people may pass up the opportunity to do that out of pride.
I'm sure.
And out of that, I'm better than that. Yeah. I can do more than this. I live with my parents. Crazy.
Well, and I think a lot of people, it's fear.
Absolutely.
A big part of it is pride, but a lot of it can be fear as well. And that's, I mean, like you were talking earlier about, people starting their own business, something like that. And I think a lot of people don't get a chance to do that. We're talking about COVID. Right. A lot of people don't get a chance to do that because they have so much fear. Like, I can tell you, I spent the first 6 months when I came back building a couple prototypes and researching patents. That's all I did for 6 months. I don't know. I mean, at the time, I didn't know anything about patents. I didn't know anything about trademarks. I bought books. I sat down. I printed every patent I could find out that was related to this possibly. And I just went through everything. I read all the patents. I looked at all the artwork, everything. And, even I look at the suppliers that I have now for some of the product, that I didn't know how to source suppliers when I did that. I was terrified. Yeah, that's not something they teach in college. I had no idea. And I knew, and one thing that, I'll say this, one thing that theater taught me really well, working in the theater industry, or entertainment in general, is a 6-pack will get you through a lot of shit. It really will.
And it'll open some doors for you.
You want to solve a problem? Get a 6-pack. So I seriously, to start sourcing suppliers, I went to the store. I got a 6-pack of beer. I sat down and I just started sending out quotes and getting responses from people. And I was like, I don't know their language, but I know if I continue to talk to them about it, I'll learn their language. Right. And then I'll be able to talk with them better about the product and about what I need.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And now I have suppliers that I can send a photo to and they can produce something right away. So
and you wouldn't have had that if you'd have started just jumping in with the product instead of doing all the research beforehand.
Absolutely.
It's figuring out how to, what you're basically to figure out your world that you wanted to go into prior to going into that world.
Well, and I think the biggest thing is that I had a tremendous amount of fear doing it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know anything about that world. But I knew that if I didn't step into it now, when was I going to step into it?
Right.
Was I going to wait 3 months when I actually needed it to then try and figure it out? Or could I figure it out and then be prepared in 3 months?
Yeah. They always say the best time to start an investment portfolio is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. And it's, acting upon it now instead of acting upon it tomorrow, which you did.
Yep.
So, in starting to kind of wind down the show, which I don't even know how long we've been at this. It's been amazing.
It's like 2 hours now. It's great.
Oh man, my phone's dead. Anyways, What are 2 valuable lessons you've learned throughout this path that you've been on?
Oh gosh, wow, that's a pretty big question. Say it again.
2 lessons you've learned.
2 lessons I've
Yeah,
learned.
just
Okay,
2 lessons you've learned.
2 lessons I've learned. One, that my values are really important. I talk about knowing yourself,
Mhm.
knowing your values. It's really important because I had to actually go through learning more about my values in order to define the mission of my company. And that mission is directly related to my core values. And so I personally, like, my personal values go right into my business values, and it fulfills both ways, back and forth. That's one value. 2, gosh, 2 things I've learned. That I, th- I'm that I've done things without regret. I don't know if that's
Okay.
the right way to phrase it.
Yeah.
I don't have. I don't think. I have like one regret, but that's it. That's it. That was not going to school initially, because I went
Okay.
to school when I was 27.
Going to college?
Yeah, college.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't go right when I was a teenager. I moved straight to New York. I think that's probably my only regret. But other than that, where I've moved, the experiences I've had, no regrets at all. And that's why, like, I come back here. Honestly, I don't even go out that much. I should go out more, but like,
You're too busy working on your craft.
well, it's
man.
not even that. It's like I've done so much already that I'm comfortable just kind of doing my work right now. I'm happy doing that. So.
And it goes back to that self-image and knowing who you are.
Yeah.
Knowing
Absolutely.
You don't need to go out on the weekends or every day or whatnot.
Absolutely.
You don't need to be so involved in
Mhm.
everything. You can be wrapped up in yourself and what you're doing and be perfectly happy.
Oh, absolutely. Well, my business mission and my own mission are they feed each other.
Yeah.
They really are. My, like, just to get into it a little bit, like, my personal mission is to help others find their voice. And I was able to define that kind of early on. And when I looked at my business, I realized that everything. So I had a lot of people, just real quick, I had a lot of people tell me, early on in the business, like, oh, well, what's your pain point? Like, what are you trying to solve? And blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know if I'm trying to solve a problem. Like, I'm just have this toy. And I had to think, okay, well, maybe there is a problem. And I said, I was a kid, I was 10 years old, and I had such a problem that I created something out of nothing. That seems like a pretty big problem.
Yeah.
And so to me, it was about creativity and it was about expression.
Mhm.
And so then the mission became expression through imagination. And that's everything that we do. So when we talk about like instructions or doing away with instructions, I had an interview the other day, and somebody asked me about like how I approach that mission in the business, and I said, look, we would rather, like, some people would put down a drawing and teach a child to draw on the lines.
Right.
Like, I'll teach the child to draw outside the lines. I'd rather them, if they're, should use a red ink by our standards or a red crayon, like, I want them to use a black. Like, I want them to explore that there's so many other options out there. And through that, it's their expression. And the more that they can express themselves, the more they can find their authentic selves.
I love
So
that.
perfectly tied together.
I love that. Man. Okay.
It took a long time to figure out. Took a lot of drinks to figure out.
But that's okay.
Yeah,
'Cause
takes time.
It's
It's a journey.
It's a journey,
Yep.
and it's being in love with the process of the
Yep.
journey. Because
Oh,
like
absolutely.
you said, once you reached your dream,
Yep.
what are you going to do after that?
Oh, you know what? I really think one moment that really changed everything for me was realizing that it was a journey. When I finally sat down with myself and said, this is a journey you're going to go on. And you're going to go on it for a really long time. Accept that it's a journey. Accept that every day is going to be different. No day is going to be perfect. You have highs and lows. But this is your journey, no matter what it throws at you. And that really changed everything. Like, once I accepted the journey,
Right.
nothing else mattered. Because it doesn't matter if it's a bad day or a good day, or if
Yeah.
things go right or wrong, whatever. It is what it is. It's a part of the journey. Learn from it and grow and keep going.
As long as you can wake up the next day and be happy to go back to it.
Yes. Sometimes I'll take a couple days off.
Sometimes you get a couple of six packs.
Sometimes I'll take a couple days off, but definitely, I just took 2 days off, which has been fantastic, and I'm more excited than ever to start up again tomorrow.
So, another question I like to ask is, what do you like about Baton Rouge? I mean, you've lived in New York, you've lived in LA,
All over.
Houston, all over.
Yeah.
What do you like about Baton Rouge?
So what I really love about Baton Rouge coming back now is seeing how big the creative community has grown.
Yes.
Because I know it's growing in general, but I never really recognized it when I was younger, when I was here. But I just see it growing so much, and I think the support of all the creatives and like the makers and all the small businesses that are trying to make Baton Rouge something, that are trying to create this creative outlet for people to build and create, but also to explore as consumers and come view it or come buy it. I think that's been kind of the joy of coming back, has been experiencing that on so many different levels. I love museums, and like that's the way I play. Like if I have a day off, I'll go to a museum, I'll go walk around. And when I first came back, I went to all the museums, and it was great. And I just love seeing that kind of arts and culture here now.
And
hopefully it continues to grow.
It's growing, and I love seeing it grow. I'm right
Yeah.
there with you. I love seeing the arts and the crafts community kind of growing.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a couple people in the art scene here on the show.
Yeah.
You know, I've had Latco,
Mhm.
the comedy club.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed watching them over the COVID kind of get creative with it all. And I look forward to the day when we can all get back into that
Yeah.
that normalcy of going
Yeah.
to stuff like that and being able to experience museums and just going in the crowds that we're used to going in and just loving the arts and loving people doing their craft.
Absolutely.
So one final question is, what can I do to help you?
Ooh, wow. That's a good question. And that's like,
if it's by
it's
a
like
table,
on the
I'll
record.
I'll buy a table.
That's a good question. I do need tables. I'm not kidding. I really need tables.
I'll get you a table.
It's just, you're backing out of it now. Now it's just one table.
No.
Now it's just one table. You offer tables.
All right, tables.
You offer
Plural.
tables. You know what's really funny? I actually need tables. Do you want to sponsor a couple tables?
I will sponsor some tables. Like, no lie. But that's one and done, man. Like, it's easy. Like, what can I do to help?
Help spread the word
Okay.
about Tatro, and not just for the sake of the company, but truly, like, it is about expression through imagination. It's about helping people just explore who they are and find out what is authentic about them.
I can do
And
that.
we happen to do that through toys.
Hey,
That's just maybe happen to do it.
future gifts locked in for my nieces and nephews.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, thank you, Will, for coming on, man. I really enjoyed this journey of the show.
Thank you very much.
It was
a journey.
It
We
was
went a lot of places.
Yeah, we went a lot. Gosh, I'm cultured now. I've been on the East Coast, on the West Coast.
But I think once we accepted the journey, then it was easier for us to go on it. Right.
Right. And that's, if you take away any lesson from this, accept the journey, people.
That's the moral of the story tonight. And that I also get tables.
Yes, and he'll get some tables. Trust me. But for those listening and for those watching, thank you all so very much for doing that. I really appreciate it, and I know that Will and everybody else that comes on the show really does as well. So, for those who haven't already, go check out Tatros.
Yeah,
And
Tatro hand-built magnetic toys.
Tatro.
www.tatrotoy.com, TATROTOY.com, or on Facebook, facebook.com/TatroToy.
That's it. And we're going to link up their website, their social media accounts. Everything's going to be in the show notes. So if you don't find it, well, I'm going to come after you and I'm going to make you find it.
If you have any kids in your life that you need to keep creative, I'm telling you, go check us out.
Or if you
Got
need to
it for
get
you.
creative.
If you
Hold
need to
on.
get
If you need to get creative.
Our one of our taglines is for kids 3 to 103.
That's it. What about
Yeah.
104?
What's that?
What about 104?
The testing up to 104, something just changed. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm Patty G, your host of The Patty G Show, signing off with Will Barrios of Tatro Toys. Thank y'all and have a great evening.
I'm a simple